everybody on the High Seas Rally. How are we doing today? A little better than that, please. Hey, today I'm Jason Hallman, and I'm one of the invited builders on the High Seas Rally. This is my first cruise and my first High Seas cruise, obviously. I also am the host of the Garageville podcast. You can find the Garageville podcast on Spotify, iHeart, all of the bigger podcast locations. So if you don't know what a podcast is, it's kind of a long-form interview, which we're going to do today with one of the greatest bands ever, Foghat. Can we make a little noise for Foghat? Can we make a little bit more noise for Foghat? All right, why don't we bring them out on stage?
The Foghat.
Ready for Foghat?
Don't be scared, come on.
Cue slow ride.
Hi, everybody. The word for the day, the letter for the day, and lots of R's.
A pirate's favorite letter.
Ooh.
All right, this is an incredible honor for me because I just found out that I was going to get an opportunity to do this, and this is one of my favorite bands. I was just telling Mr. Roger Earl, who is one of the original founding members of Foghat, drummer. Founded in 1971, correct?
That's right.
And when I was 14, my dad gave me a record that Mr. Earl played on from Savoy Brown. And so this is a long storied history. And why don't we go down and introduce yourself and what you do with the band?
Brian Bassett, slide guitar, and really minimal background vocals. I'm just an ooh-ah man. I'm Scott Holt. I'm the guitar player and singer. Also play the accordion. I'm a Cancer. I like long walks. And
my name is Jimmy Bang Bang, and I'll go for long walks too. And yeah, maybe we'll go together, right? Yeah, all right. And yeah, I like banging stuff and kicking shit. And guess what? I get paid for doing that. Yeah, how cool is that?
And I'm Rodney O'Quinn, bass player, singer, and dubbed by Roger, apparently, the king of woo.
Can we make a woo noise, huh?
2, 3.
So we're on the High Seas Rally. You guys have played the High Seas Rally before, or I heard you guys talking down there that you'd already been in that green room down there. So
Well, we've been on. There's several ships in this class, and everything looks really familiar. So I'm not sure which one. We're on the Mariner, but we've done several other cruises. With this line. So,
what is the best part about doing a cruise?
For me, there's two great things. First of all, you have a group of people that get to make friends. You get to mingle with the people. Plus, we get to play a couple shows, and we get to see a lot of shows. See other bands play, which is not always the case. So it's great to do a cruise that has multiple bands on it, where you get to hang out with your peers and play one and drink one and.
It's kind of like the motorcycle industry too. When we're on here, we see all these folks that we kind of know peripherally, and then we get to be good friends with them and stuff. And so you guys have been playing obviously since 1971. Foghat's been around. That's a lot of years, right? I can remember when they made a big deal out of the Rolling Stones being around 20 years. So what is it like to be around 50 years? Sorry.
Actually, I guess the good Lord hasn't seen quite fit to take me yet, and I'm very grateful for that.
What are you kidding? You're going to outlive all of us.
I love what I do. It's just a great job playing in this band. These guys are great. They play great. We found Rodney sort of laying in the gutter somewhere, pissing in his pants. And we said, can you play bass and you want to join a band? He said, no. I said, come with me.
You weren't going to tell that about me.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, because I want to kind of talk about the history and moving forward, and talk about, you can talk endlessly about all the parties and all that stuff, and we all kind of know that that goes along with the job that you do. But if, for those of you in the audience that don't know, if everybody remembers the cover of the Foghat cover where he was sitting over the manhole with the fishing rod and all that. That was Mr. Earl in 1974 or 5, right? Now there's a funny anecdote that goes along with that. If I'm reading my Foghat history correctly, do you care to divulge what happened while you were doing that?
Right, we were up in Sharon, Vermont, on the top of a mountain. It was the 4th of the City album, and up until that point, other than the first album, we've been recording like out on the road at different studios. You know, to have a couple of days off, we'd be back on the road. We didn't stop. But Nick Jamieson had just joined the band on bass, keyboards, and guitar and trombone. Don't you hate people that play everything? You know, us mere mortals, like, you know, we have to struggle at one instrument, maybe one and a half. But no, Nick Jamieson plays everything well. I hate. No, only what we were talking about, right?
The manhole cover.
So we would be in this studio called Suntreader Studios, top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere. Occasionally the power would go out, like a moose or one of the drunken locals would knock a pole over. But anyway, I would finish one of my tracks. We would all play together, but we would usually overdub the vocals and at least probably the slide guitar. We would always overdub that. And so I'd finish my stuff and I would go fishing. Vermont has some really fine trout fishing, and there was nobody around, just me, and I had a really good time. So Nick Jamieson came up with the idea. He said, look, why don't we sort of have Roger fishing in a manhole in New York? Because 4th of the City was actually written about New York, great city. And so we said, all right. We went in one Sunday morning. We were down in the village, I think it was St. Mark's Place. And we put up the manhole cover. It was about sort of 6, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. And a couple of New York's finest come along. They rolled down their windows. This is when they rolled down their windows. And we said, oh shit, you know, New York cops are going to arrest us or something. And they said, hey, what are you doing? You got a license? We go, oh, fuck, we don't have a license. You got a fishing license? So, with that, they came over and said, what are you guys doing? This could be dangerous. So they were really cool. They took some pictures of us, and they blocked the manhole cover off for us, and so nobody would sort of fall down it or drive their car over it. New York cops, they're really cool. Good guys, good guys. Did I answer the question?
Yes, I think very good.
Took a while, but I think
Can
so.
I have another one? I'm on a roll.
Yes, I will give you another one. So over the years, if you go back, the whole way they used to record albums and back in the olden days, back before the digital age, we'll say, do you find that you like the technology, or do you have like a warm spot in your heart for the way, the more cumbersome way, some would say, of doing it in the studios on tape?
I think you should talk to Brian about that, actually. Making records is always, I don't care if anybody says, no, it's dead easy. Everybody worries. It's sort of like, oh, I'm going to be able to play all right. You know, because you're under the microscope. Every note has to be perfect. Everything has to be. But generally speaking, this band and any other time I've been recording, we like to all play together and then overdub whatever. The drummer has to get it right, otherwise everybody might as well go home.
That's right,
Brian?
That's right. No record sounds good with a bad drum track.
Right.
But as I have the pleasure of recording us in our studio down in Florida, and you know, this question comes up quite a lot. And there was two distinct ways, in my mind, of how things were in the old days. First of all, you had limited time. You had limited resources money-wise. Studios were expensive. And, most of the classic albums that we listened to from the classic rock era were probably recorded in like a week or two.
Right.
So the thing back then was a lot of rehearsal, pre-production, so you did a lot of work outside the studio, went in the studio with what money you had, recorded the record, and generally went back out on the road. So the digital era, and I don't think any recording engineer now, so many years later, would ever give up the technology of digital recording, the editing ease, but it can be excessive. Some genres, might have 150 tracks, in Pro Tools, making a record. So the way I approach digital recording, which is we record all digitally now, and I have a Pro Tools studio, I think analog and use digital. So if we, instead of saying, okay, that's good enough, I'll fix it in the mix, or let's just do 20 guitar solos and figure out it later. I think like in the old days, we had 16 or 24 tracks and try to get everybody captured in one pass. If we don't like the take, we redo the take instead of try to repair it digitally. So, I think it's a combination of both. I mean, the digital realm, recording-wise, is unbelievable, really. I mean, you can do on a laptop in your bedroom what used to cost $100,000 in the old days in a studio. So there's, but artistically, I mean, and it's all genre-defined. Classic rock, I think, still has to have that classic rock feel, everybody playing together in a room.
Nice warm tone.
Right, and, human mistakes are character, I think they're, bring character to a recording, not outright mistakes, but, little variations in timing and stuff.
Sure, I mean, we all have our favorite albums that we listen to that are classic rock. We hear these little nuanced, you would call them mistakes or happy accidents or whatever, but you can hear them in there and you get that warm tone.
Happy accidents.
Right. Yeah, and I think, this is an era now where everybody's remixing classic albums, and I think, at least me, and I think a lot of people are like it too, you hear it and you go, man, there's something wrong with that.
There is something off a little bit. It's a little too pasteurized.
It doesn't sound right, so I think all that, old, I guess what's the word, emotion and performance gets baked into your brain as your favorite song. So it's hard to mess with a classic.
I want to ask a question to the singer. You do most of the lead singing, you said. So you have a pretty, I would think that being that you are fronting a band like Foghat now, that's a pretty tough thing to carry on your shoulders, right? So how do you bring what you do into, and so that the audience still sees exactly or hears what they're used to too, and make them fall in love with you?
I have no fucking idea. If I thought about it, I probably wouldn't be able to do it.
So it's just kind of an inherent thing, and I guess that goes to, did you have to rehearse for the band, or did they find you and pluck you out? Well, no, I mean, I think that's a
They locked me in a room for a month and said, you can't come out until you can sing these songs.
Okay, so you were voluntold and captured.
Every time I'd open the door, Brian was standing there. He's 6 feet tall. He was like, get back in there.
Right.
I'll bring you some mac and cheese.
Sing Fool for the City. I'd start crying.
That's something that I've always wondered, and I don't mean it in a disparaging way at all. I've listened to Fool for the City probably literally 1,000 times, if I could count. But
Me too.
So how do you prevent something from getting just kind of like stale or that? I mean, I know it's a great song, and I don't know how that could happen because I've listened to it as many times as you played it, but how do you prevent that? Is there kind of a mechanism that you do, or you just love what you do enough?
It's love. I don't understand how you could get tired of doing this, or how it could become boring. I mean, I've had some regular jobs and they really suck.
I know.
Would you like
This is
fries
nice.
with that? I can supersize for 30 cents. Yeah.
50 now. I mean, we're in a recession.
There's actually jobs where when you get done with your job, no one claps and no one tells you what a good job you did. Who would want to do that? That's terrible.
So being in the motorcycle business, some people tell me you're professionally unemployed. So I think the rock band is like one level up from that.
Yeah, that's an excellent description. And for us, the only thing that stays the same day to day are the songs. We try to perform them at the best of our ability every single day. You have a different crowd, different venue, different stage, different equipment, different city. So everything changes but the song. So people say, how can you play that song, over and over again? Does it get boring? And go, no, it's never boring because that's the only solid thing we could depend on.
Well, to me, what really makes it is to watch the people light up when you kick into that song. Even though you've played it a million times, as soon as you see that energy come off of them, you're just like, oh yeah, this is it.
Also, right from the beginning, from our very first album, Foghat, the band, whichever band it was, we've had a number of people in it. We always did the songs we wanted to do the way we wanted to do them. Producers are very useful. The best ones are like a fifth member of the band. They join the band till the end of the record. But Foghat always did what songs we wanted to do. A couple of people tried and said, yeah, do this song, all right? And this would be the record company who give us hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we say, no, fuck off. So the songs we play and how we play and what we do is down to us, and so far it's working.
I would say
we always recorded stuff that we enjoyed.
one of my best friends is a touring musician as well, and he told me one time, he said, I don't get paid to play drums. I get paid to travel. I get to play drums. What is it, are you still traveling as rigorously as you have in the past, or does that ebb and flow?
Yeah, we do between, I guess, 60 and 70 shows a year. We had some minor issues. What was that nasty disease that stopped everybody from having fun? Yeah. I was off, it was the first time I've had 2 years off from the road since I was like 15 years old, I think. It was kind of weird. I couldn't see the children. We couldn't talk to people. I had some friends come over to the house at the bottom of the garden. We had a wine shed, and they say, so if we come in and grab a couple of bottles, Rog? And I say, yeah, no problem. But I hate to say it, but I kind of enjoyed it. I go to grow my own vegetables, dig the garden, mow the lawn, went fishing. I was locked up with my wife, who is in fact the Holy Trinity. She's my girlfriend, wife, and manager. So I was actually quite happy, but I missed it terribly. It was rough not playing. I have an electronic drum kit upstairs. I've got pads all over the house. Thank you, darling. I also have my drums set up in a drum shed outside, and the neighbours are pretty cool as well. They say things like, "You didn't play yesterday, Rog," and I go, "Did you want me to?" They said, "No, it's all right." We were on the telephone. We were making calls to the rest of the people. No, I love my job. We do. We're very fortunate.
I think the biggest transition really from the old days to now is in the old days you jump on a bus, tour bus, go out for 6, 8, 10 weeks at a time. In Roger's case, maybe almost years when he came from England. And now we do more what we call fly-in days, where we fly in, and the backline companies that provide so much of our equipment are so good now. They're like traveling music stores. So, we're relieved of having to bring a tractor trailer full of equipment and drive show to show. So, but I believe, and this is before my time in the band, but Foghat held the record for a couple of years running in the 70s for performing the most live performances in America.
Actually, I remember my very first tour over here in the States felt like coming home to me, because this is my adopted home and I've always loved this country. It's given music to the world. But the first tour when I came over here was away for 13 months. My daughter, who is with us tonight, was like, I'm not even sure she was walking. I got home about 13 months later, and she said, "Who's that strange man in bed with you, Mummy?" No, she didn't. That's not Uncle Jimmy. Somebody better send me home right now. Actually, come on, you're the funny one in the band. You say something. No.
But back to the traveling, the one thing like he was starting to touch on, unfortunately everything shut down when that thing happened. but it really, we were so used to always going, it was a way of life that you just did it. Your family accepted it, you accepted it, you just did it. Then once you got a chance to stop and really, okay, I can't go nowhere, it was like, wow. To me, it was like, wow, I can't believe how much shit I missed at home. It's like, what happened to my daughter that was 3? You're 18 now? But it was great to get back out, but it was definitely a struggle to get going again. It's like, I don't know if I want to do this again. Come on now. I got to get an airplane next to people. Hey, but you know what? If it weren't for all of y'all, we wouldn't even have a reason to do this. So thank you all.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned that you guys have a studio down in Florida. So do you, and I've heard of people doing this in other bands, do you get everybody in a room still and you know, kind of homogenize and rehearse together and then record? Or are you I've seen people, like during COVID, for example, there were people that were performing together through their Pro Tools and their MacBooks and stuff like that.
Sort of like a Zoom meeting with
yeah,
a band.
Yeah.
No, we don't really do that. We actually try, and you know, as I mentioned before, we try to do it old school where we rehearse in the same room, play in the same room. It's a little bit challenging for our particular studio because it's small, but we have, you know, not really loud amplifiers. We have direct lines.
Sure.
And, you know, and there's a lot of great digital technology out there to emulate guitar amplifiers and stuff, so that we can play together. I mean, I think there's something magical about everybody in the room making eye contact, playing. You know, there's tempo variations, but everyone's locked together, and you know, I just think that's a big part of our style of music, anyhow.
Who's the guy in the band that stops everybody when somebody makes a mistake?
Usually me.
I kind of figured that. You see Roger's head is down.
I think we all do.
Yeah, everybody can raise a hand, you know. But I'm the one sitting at the board
actually,
that has to press the button. All right, next. Now let's try that again. You know. But yeah, everyone says, "Hey, wait, stop."
No, actually, Brian's in charge. Brian is the resident genius in this band, as far as I'm concerned. And not only is a brilliant slide guitar player, he is also a producer, chief engineer. He's also a good cook. But
Not as good as you, Raj, but I'm trying.
But as I sometimes, you know, if I've got a couple of tracks done, then I'll do the cooking. But yeah, I can be useful.
You know, that was the best thing about joining this band. One of the best things. When, you know, all my other bands that I played in as a young kid, you know, after practice, pizza, 6-pack. You know, when we were with Craig, it was like after rehearsal, well, I'm having a tenderloin with a white wine reduction and a creme brulee. And then Roger would, you know, after we have fabulous dinners at our studio.
When our original bass player, Craig McGregor, was with us, he and I would share the duties of cooking for the band, and we ate well, didn't we?
We sure did, and still do.
Yeah.
And now that you got me, you're lucky if I can warm up a Hot Pocket for you.
Overdo it where it's rubbery. It's just something that would seem to me, something that I think would be exciting to kind of understand the space that somebody would be in, the headspace. When you found out that you were going to be the lead singer of Foghat, when you really found out that you'd had the job, what goes through your brain?
I don't think you had time to think about it. It was kind of like all of a sudden, like this quick transition happened. Charlie, all of a sudden, I'm going to retire and I'm not going to play anymore. I mean, so much for giving notice. But then it's like, hey, Scott, you're the new singer of the band. What?
Because we were actually in our studio writing songs, and that's how we met Scott, and he's helped us write songs on previous albums. We became friends, and he comes down to Florida, and we were in pre-production for a new studio record. And yeah, and like Rodney said, well, instead of writing songs, you want to learn 50 Foghat songs instead. So it's a natural transition.
Earl and the Agitators was the start of that. We were doing the Under the Influence, and we were the Under the Influence album, and we were short 2 or 3 songs, and Tom Hambridge was our producer, great producer, really cool guy. And so we met Scott and we said, you want to come down and help us out? We need to write a couple of songs. Typical band, instead of 3, we wrote 17. So, what we're going to do with all these songs? So, hence Earl and the Agitators was born. I think that was Brian's thought.
We got really drunk. I mean, we were relaxed one night talking after Bible study, and Brian said, let's be one of the agitators.
It hit me like a bolt of lightning. And there was wine involved. I was like, I said, we have all these songs. What are we gonna do with them? And they said, well, let's put out a record. And I was like, Earl and the Agitators. It just came to me. And I said, and everybody in the band is named Earl. And so we had backstage passes made up for ourselves at Earl number 1, Earl number 2, Earl number 3, and all our guest passes said, I'm with Earl.
I'm Earl number 4 because I count to 4 most of the time. But sometimes I'll start a song like 1, 2, and these bastards come in before me. Once you get to 4, yeah, they jump on it. It's anticipation, isn't it? Is that what it's called?
I won't go there.
How do you guys feel about the? I can remember being a kid and peeling the clear plastic off an album and pulling it out in the not the deal jacket, but the record jacket and the liner notes and all of that visceral thing that happened. With that being gone, how do you convey that to somebody?
Well, I actually taught some classes at a local college, and I would tell my students, I said, back in the day, what did we have? We had board games, a bicycle, and a nice stereo, hopefully. So when a new record came out, opening, that was like, and really you did it with your friends, and it was a communal thing. You opened up that record, passed it around, everybody read every single word on it. That was the one thing, not only sonically, that was weird about CDs, was that the print was so small.
Yeah, you couldn't read.
You couldn't even read it. Like that whole experience, and not to mention the cool artwork that came along with great records. And so that was a whole, different kind of a shift. But I mean that, that opening that new record, like you say, that was a big deal. And your record shops had a list of all the new releases that were coming up, and
You broke your microphone.
Man, that'll be just about enough of you, Brian.
In all actuality, it was like the music version of when you got the latest Playboy magazine. You had to read the articles.
Good parenting.
yeah, that was the big
So
event.
is Foghat working on a new album right now?
When we get finished this tour, which is coming to a close, we'll go back in the studio in the winter. That's sort
So
of
that'll
our
come out
pattern.
2023? How long does it take to do an album then? You mentioned earlier before that because of time constraints and money constraints, it was the whole band would get in and do pre-production and get it done. Can you take your time now a little bit
Yes,
more?
we can. We're pretty much on our own schedule these days.
Well,
we have our own.
according to our manager, she wanted it done so we could release it by January of 2023.
Okay. Well, oh, that's right. I forgot that. So
She's nodding.
no, we're in a real hurry.
Well, you will be when you get home.
I forgot
I can
that
tell
part.
you that.
Thanks, Rodney. So we're going to rush right into the studio and really work hard to get it done as fast as possible.
Well, back in the 70s, as it were, and early 80s, we had record companies that give you like hundreds of thousands of dollars and a time frame like, we want this out in 2 months, so okay. But now it's different. We have our own record company, and the only reason we make records and put records out is because we love to play. This band has a passion about playing. My older brother Colin once said the immortal words of, anything other than 3 chords has to be viewed with a certain amount of suspicion. A quick story. We're making the Fall for the City album, and I'd finished my stuff at the end of the day. We were working on the arrangement for Fall for the City, the song, and we get back to the house, and Dave and I are sitting at the table. We had some pasta, I think, and Dave and I are drinking this red wine, and I'm looking at Dave. He looks up to me and he says, what? I said, hey, Dave, how many chords in Fall for the City? Now, he knew where I was going with this, and he said, it's all right, Rog. He said, there's only 3. All the other chords don't matter. They're just passing chords. I love Dave.
And your brother that you're talking about was the one that was in Mungo Jerry, was it not?
Yeah, my brother Colin played piano in the band Mungo Jerry. Actually, I started learning piano when I was about 10 or 11, but my father played piano, and Colin was 4 years older than me, so he was always at the piano. But I went to see Jerry Lee Lewis when I was about 12 years old. My father was really cool. He played piano too, and he took me to see Jerry Lee Lewis. He played in a theatre in southwest London near where I lived, and I was never the same after that. My mother's quote was, "It addled his brain, he was never the same." I don't know what addled brain is, but apparently it addled my brain. And unfortunately we lost Jerry Lee Lewis recently, which was rather sad, but he was something to behold and to hear. If anybody ever had a chance to see him in his heyday, he was something else, and it changed my life. Along with Chuck Berry, of course. We'd be nothing without Chuck, right? We'd all be out of work.
That's right.
So going down the line, what are your big musical influences?
He's talking to you, Rodney.
Yeah, you.
You're talking to Rodney again?
Yeah, I am.
You have to say, excuse me, Rodney.
Excuse me, Rodney.
Wake up, what?
King of Woo.
King of Woo. Oh, man, I was all over the place. Definitely, just about everything in the 70s was great to me, really spoke to me. Unfortunately, I was at that era when Kiss broke huge, so yeah, I was a Kiss fan. But different bands I was learning, I always had these things. I could play with them, I could play with them, I could play with them. But yeah, Foghat live, someone told me I could play with Foghat. But yeah, I mean, all the 70s stuff, guitar-driven 70s stuff. I mean, Montrose, God, I love Montrose, UFO, Foghat, Pat Travers, I mean, just all that stuff. Bachman Turner Overdrive. That was good shit.
And what about you, Scott?
Oh, I got so wrapped up in Rodney's story, I forgot what I was supposed to say.
Rolling Stones. What about the Rolling Stones?
Yeah, they're great.
I've got one of their T-shirts.
I saw it.
I used to go and see, I used to live in southwest London. I used to go to the Railway Club and Ilpay Island to go and see the Stones. They were great, and this was my brush of greatness. I was up at the bar. I was only sort of 16, I think, at the time, which was underage, but they didn't care in England. It was like, you want a beer? Yes, please. Okay, show us your money. So I'm up at the bar. Mick turns around and bumps into me. He says, sorry, mate. That was my brush with greatness.
Now, my favorite thing about the Stones was here I'm in high school and everybody's like going, hey man, you going to see the Stones? It's the farewell tour, 1981. This is the last time we'll ever get to see them. Needless to say, they got my ticket money then, and then they got it on the next tour, and the next tour. I didn't go see him this year though.
Elvis.
Really? Okay.
That was the first concert my parents took me to. I was 9 years old.
That's a good concert to go to when you're 9.
It was a great concert. Yeah, I saw Elvis and then Jimi Hendrix, and then that was it.
1, 2, and done.
Yeah, I know.
That's enough to change
Pretty
your
good
life,
combo there.
right?
It's a good
One,
job.
two punch.
It's a good job I discovered porn later, because that would have been a different line of work altogether. It's a different set of influences.
I think
Right, honey?
Now, my mama turned me on to Elvis. I remember being knee-high
I'm
to
so
grass.
glad he
I
didn't
couldn't
say my
walk
mama
past the
turned me on to
vacuum
porn.
cleaner
That
without
would really
grabbing it.
freak me out. My mama turned me on.
I was a vacuum cleaner's handle singing son of a gun.
How am I supposed to be serious now, right? In British blues, that's what got me. I think I got my
John Mayall, early
Right, I
Fleetwood
think when
Mac.
it's Ed Sullivan Show and the Beatles and everybody, those shows started, I think everybody in my neighborhood either got a guitar or some kind of a drum, for Christmas, and there was all these little basement bands, and funny enough, my mother brought me along with the guitar, well, Santa Claus, not my mom.
Wait, what?
But you got me the first two Jeff Beck albums. I mean, talk about making it hard on somebody. He's my favorite guitarist. But then I got into the British blues guys, all the John Mayall records, with Peter.
Early Fleetwood Mac.
Peter Green, one of my all-time favorites. Of course, Clapton and Cream, and
Yeah.
So the British guys, and then which then turned me on to who wrote that song? Who's this? Freddie King guy.
But that goes back to what he was saying about liner notes, because then you could look on the record, the liner notes, and figure out who played what and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, I would even as a kid I would even look at like the producers
Yeah,
and things
so
like
then-
that. And
then
you
I
find
started
that this guy's
discovering-
name was here and here and here in these different bands. It was amazing. It was
And
amazing.
you were the
Starts
same
walking
guys
around
that told
heritage.
everybody that you read the articles in Playboy.
Not me.
My
I looked
dad
at the
was more of a
pictures.
pen
There's
pal
naked
guy.
ladies in that book.
Right.
Really?
Hell yeah.
Well, do you guys have time for a couple questions from the audience?
Sure. Not really. I gotta run.
Who has a question? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I work in Minneapolis radio and you come to our city a lot, so thanks so much for your shows there. But a lot of artists are selling their libraries, which for Past Rock Radio is great for us because it introduces a younger audience to your exposure. Have you guys sold any of your catalog yet? How do you feel about artists selling their catalog?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. I want to know the answer to that too.
I think they must be sort of close to sort of knocking on heaven's door, so they figure they better cash in whilst they can. I think that's the idea, isn't it? Well, yeah, well, no wrong with that. Money makes the world go round. I've been poor. It's not a lot of fun. But the truth is, my wife said that. No, I better not say that. If I had a dime, I'd have more money than sense. I don't really have any respect for the almighty dollar. It's just a means to an end as far as I'm concerned. That's probably why I don't have any money. Can I have some money, please, honey? No, she says no.
What about the piece of introducing younger audience to the music from sales?
That's what TikTok's for.
And I think a lot of it, for like you said, it's definitely money, but I think it's estate management. I mean, what musicians, especially from our era, had to go through to actually get their money through all the machinations of record companies, bad management, lawyers, and everything else. Ties it up in a nice package, puts it in a trust fund so your kids don't have to deal with it and they're not going to get run over like they did, themselves. And of course, if you're somebody, like that's a prolific writer like Bob Dylan and you're hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, do you want to put that burden on your family? I don't think so. But it also opens up, like you said, the whole new generation to those classic songs that were pretty much kept under wraps while they were, under the purview of the original writer. So it's gonna, it's like a library now, it's history of music.
I think it's our job as music fans to try to pass that on. That's how I learned about good music
Absolutely,
and quality musicianship and things like that, even though neither of my parents played any instruments.
I mean, I know my 1-year-old, I had a live Cheap Trick in my truck every time I drove her to school, and for the first day of school, she's walking, gonna raise hell, gonna raise hell.
My dad always used to say he could play a mean turn.
Try one of the other songs.
Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir.
Did you ever get mistaken for Keith Urban and you for Michael Caine's younger brother?
Thank you for the Michael Caine bit, but he did come from the East End of London, I believe. My parents did, so maybe I picked up a little bit of that. But Michael Caine, a great actor, but thank you for that. No, nobody said, you look like Michael Caine. I said, do I? He's really an old bastard. No, I love Michael Caine. Thank you.
The Keith Urban one, it's funny you say that. I kind of seem to get tagged with that a lot. Of course, every time somebody says it, my wife is real quick to go, I wish. And she'll tell everybody that would be her hall pass, because that's her celebrity crush. But true story, I was on a flight first class. I'm sitting there, and after a while, flight attendant comes up mid-flight. She kneels down beside me real quietly. She goes, "Would you mind if I take a picture with you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we take the photo together, and then finally I go, "You know I'm not who you think I am." I say, "Listen to me. I got a southern drawl. I do not have an Australian accent." But I guess I've changed my hair a little bit throughout the years, because there for a while, every time you turn around, people were accusing me of being Jeff Foxworthy.
Plus, he sounds like him. Go ahead, Rodney, do it.
Flight attendant, delete the picture.
No, she didn't delete the picture. If you mow your lawn and find your car, you might be a redneck.
And we actually did that in the, he did it on stage with Jeff. We did a concert.
That was probably, I would have to say, like the highlight. I mean, I've played with a lot of people, and I love playing with these guys. But when all of a sudden we were doing this tour package with Jeff and Larry the Cable Guy, and I would kid around backstage. I'm a little out of practice now. I quit doing it. Back then I was doing it all the time, so I was spot on. But Jeff would always say, "I'm gonna bring you on stage. I'm gonna bring you on stage." I'm like, "Yeah, it'll never happen." So we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, NASCAR capital there. I was here for old Jeff here. But he actually pulls me out. So now I'm like on the spot, and I'm like going, "Hey!" But I actually got to do stand-up and swap jokes with Jeff in front of 12, 13,000 people. And it was a rush. But the real kicker on it that was great, because we're in Charlotte, and he finishes the last tagline, and he finally goes, "If your son's named Dale Jr. and you're not Dale, you might be a redneck."
Actually, I remember that too. It was terrific. Larry the Cable Guy is an absolute riot. Really, really super human being. Funny too. And he was learning to play drums, so I said, "So $3,000 a lesson." I've got thrown out of the dressing room. No, I didn't. I gave him a pair of sticks. And he would come up on stage. We would start playing Slow Ride. He would come up and bang on the drums with me. It was a lot of fun playing with. I mean, those two guys are really cool.
Remember, he came out with a big giant wig
Real
down to his
people.
waist. And then we go, "Slow ride, get her done. Slow ride."
You're done.
It was a good thing Jeff knew how to tell jokes, because when he came out and tried to play air guitar with us, that boy was white. Square peg, round hole.
He did tell me that if he could get you to grow a mustache, he'd retire. So,
Yeah.
and just
Back then, that's what
sub
he told me.
you
He
out.
goes, "You know, you grow a mustache, I could retire."
I'll just manage you and send you in my place.
Right? Do like the old Gallagher move. Anybody else?
Well, the way we do things, it's kind of like always, with the fact of, like he said earlier, Brian had said about how we do fly dates, it allows you to, just jump around, whereas when you were getting on a bus and carrying everything, you had to strategically plan everything. Now, every now and then, now this is a true story, we did this, I think it was about 17, literally, because our agent didn't own a map. We literally played one night. Our first night was in Milwaukee. The very next night we played in Vegas. The very next night we played outside of Chicago. The very next night we played outside of Denver. Buy a freaking map! What's that? We do play in Ohio. Yeah, we hope to get everywhere.
Yeah, we just did 3 Ohio shows in a row.
Yeah, we just
A
did
couple
3
weeks ago.
Ohio shows. Where the hell were you?
Well,
We had a question down
we
here.
play everywhere, man. We play everywhere.
Hey, if the money's right, we're appearing at the bathroom in the Waffle House.
Our original lead singer, Lonesome Dave Peverett, thought up the name. He was playing a Scrabble game with his brother John, And Dave made up the name, and his brother said, "That's not a name." And sibling rivalry as it is, it's a name. It's us. Yes, these four
These
guys.
four gentlemen right here.
But
We're definitely an
I always
item.
thought it was a great name because I thought of London, Foghat, leaning against the lamppost. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Dave was like, no, it was a made-up word in a Scrabble game.
Now, I wasn't known to ride the short bus growing up, but I had an aha moment. I'd been with the band a couple of years, but like I was looking where we had the old retro hats where it said fog. And I was always thinking, yeah, fog, yeah, it's cool. And then one day I was looking at a hat and I go, fog, hat, fog, it's a hat. Fog hat, son of a bitch! Yeah, I felt like a real ignoramus there.
Here's another one. That reminds me of another one. We were based in Port Jefferson, Long Island, for the longest while. I got off the boat, so you know that was where I was. And we had our office there, and then this older couple, actually it was the studio, Boogie Motel, up in Port Jefferson. And this older couple come in, they go, "Hello, have you got some rainwear?" I said, "Pardon?" "But they said this is where you get fog hats." This is true. Said, "You got any rainwear?" "No, we're a rock and roll band." "Oh, so you don't have any rainwear then?" "Well, we do, but it's not for sale. It's like personal items." But it was quite sweet actually. He's looking for rainwear. Actually, we have some rainwear to give away, don't we? Condoms. Foghat condoms. That's rain.
You know, take a slow ride.
Safe sex.
So are you guys playing? Do you have more dates on the ship while we're still on the high seas? What is your final?
Yep, Thursday, I believe we're in the 6:30 slot.
And that's at the Royal Theater, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So if you haven't seen them, you need to come see them. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for your time today.
Our pleasure.
Keep rocking. It's been an honor, honestly, to meet you
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, everyone.